Hello, and thank you very much for joining us here on another edition of Business Time. My name is Kemini Amanor. Today we'll focus on the city. We're asking, what is the true state of the city? What does the future hold for the city? We want to clear out the noise around the performance of the city today on the program. But first, we'll bring you the major business news over the week, and then later on in the program, we'll also bring you some commodities and forex news as well. Do stay with us, don't go away.
For over 2 decades, we have given corporate Ghana quality services and the reader relevant business information.
I'm glad you could stay with us here on Business Time. My name is Kemini Amanor. Let's get around the business world, find out what are those trending issues that made news over the week. The Ministry of Trade and Industry has said it will, through a legislative instrument, place a ceiling on the annual importation of cement into the country in a bid to sanitize the sector and protect local manufacturers from unfair competition. In addition, in order to show up local raw cashew nuts processing, the Trade and Industry Ministry has said no export of the commodity will be entertained until after 31st May 2016. The China-Africa Development Fund is to provide about $1.5 billion long-term loan for the construction of 350 megawatts coal-fired plants to meet future power demand. The coal power project to be undertaken by the Volta River Authority and its Chinese partner Shenzhen Energy Group Company Limited of China is to be sited at Abuano in the Kumfit district of the Central Region. The Minister of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, Elizabeth Owusu-Jare, has welcomed the President's decision of allowing the country to issue visas on arrival to all citizens within the African Union, saying it is a great boost to Ghana's tourism. Speaking on the sidelines of the ongoing ITB fair in Berlin, the Minister said the President's announcement will ensure travelers go through a hassle-free process in acquiring visas. The Member of Parliament for Ichumamponia, Isaac Isiama, is questioning what he thinks is haste in selling of oil blocks in the offshore basin when a bill expected to regulate such deals is yet to be approved by Parliament. According to Mr. Isiama, the situation does not offer value for money and falls short of best practices. I'm glad you could stay on here on the program. Business Time is brought to you in association with Lily Foods and Giant Malt, and is powered by the Business and Financial Times newspaper, which you'll find on your newsstand throughout the week, Monday to Friday, except on Thursdays. You can just visit bftonline.com, as and when you need business news, it's always there for you. Now we can get into the conversation around the city. I was telling you earlier that we want to separate the noise from what is fact around the city. To help us do that is Managing Director of InvestCorp, Sampson Akligoh. He's joined us here today on the program. Thank you very much for joining us here, Sampson.
Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure.
What is the true state of the city? There's so much noise about its performance, but what is it? What should business people know about the city right now?
I think that the true state of the city is quite, I don't know how to put it, but I want to put it this way, really. The city, or what we want to talk about, is the exchange rate, is a price. So the true state really is just reflecting the fundamentals of the economy. So what is the true state of the city? What I can say is that as we are here, the city is reflecting, of course, our trade balance. And when you talk about that, you're talking about export imports. As we're speaking here, the city, again, the exchange rate reflects what is happening in our portfolio accounts. And I think that also broadly, to bring it to what everybody should understand, is that the city reflects our collective behavior as we engage the rest of the world in commerce. So that's really the true state of the city. So, for example, we have seen the energy crisis being, I wouldn't say that. We have seen the step down. We have kind of serious erratic power supply now. We've seen some stability. Businesses are regaining momentum. We're going to see imports surge. Really, that's going to put pressure on the city. We've seen commodity prices. What is happening? Ghana depends on clearly commodities, of which the key ones now are gold, cocoa, crude oil. Again, so what is happening? You see the prices of crude oil. They've really been very, very down this year. So all this really is reflecting about how the city should be. I think what I want to say is that if you want about my perspective, and you see that how has the city performed this year, what should we be expecting, and how should we be thinking about the city, then I think the conversation then would have to be more of policy. Now, and then
we'll get into what to expect around the city, but let's start off with your first question about what has its performance been this year, for instance, maybe last quarter of 2015 to this where we are now to date. What has the performance been? So
we have seen the year-to-date quarterly for 2015 was quite sharp. I think we had about 14%, if I do remember. And this year we are doing really 1.27, and we're talking about depreciation against the US dollar. So in terms of that, you've seen the city being relatively resilient this year compared to last year. And I think that the performance this year has been maybe the best since 2013, when we had even in 2013, I think year-to-date quarterly, in the first quarter, we had about 2%, 2.7. So yes, this year really you could see that we have one of the currency that has shown some kind of resilience, of course, and the underlying factors of the resilience, of course, are varied.
Do you see the city sustaining this level or getting better in the future?
Yeah. Now, I think that policy-wise, the exchange rate must be consistent with our inflation target. I see also that policy-wise, the currency must be in line with long-term growth. So what I see is that clearly we should see a currency which path is not going to say that we're going to see a currency that is going to strengthen. It's going to see a currency that is not going to depreciate. I see on the average currency depreciation for Ghana around 12 to 15%. That's normal, unless of course we alter the current economic fundamentals. Remember, our inflation target itself is let's say an average of single digit 9 or 10%, and that really is what I see the long-term part of the city to be. To achieve that clearly means that we have to pay a lot of attention to the city, because it filters into inflation, looking at how open our economy is. So your question really, I would say that, yeah, if you look at the long term, we look at the economy, I think that as businesses, we must be very frank with ourselves that there is some level of depreciation that we should factor into our decision making, unless of course the structure of the economy changes to support something else.
So in the long term, you're expecting that the city will get better. That's what you're saying? No,
what I'm saying is that not getting better. I don't know, getting better in the long term. With the current structure of the economy, with the current fundamentals, we're going to see the city depreciate.
Depreciate further?
Yes, depreciate. I mean, we can't have a city that is trending. I mean,
how long is this long term?
Well, that's difficult for even economists to say. If you said, for example, what I'm saying, if you have a trade deficit, you can have your currency strengthen. Even if your your portfolio account is making you to have a stronger city, what will happen is that your economy becomes uncompetitive. For example, if we want to promote exports and you are keeping your currency at some level, that is not reflective of the trade dynamics. You are actually hurting growth. You are hurting the economy. So it's about being realistic. And I'm saying that if you look at the current path of the economy, we're going to see there should be some room for depreciation. We can't say that maybe the cedi is going to strengthen or appreciate and going to be stronger. That is a difficult thing to say. But is the cedi going to be erratic? That's the depreciation. Is it going to be guided? Can businesses plan with it? That again depends on a lot of policy decisions and expectations about how the economy is going to perform over time. And I think that because we have our portfolio account, has really a lot of foreign investors have come into, especially our fixed income market, through treasury bills, government securities, and even the Eurobond. What happens is that any cough in the economy becomes more contagious and it leads to more volatility. So yes, again, the potential for the currency to be more volatile as a result of domestic dynamics and of course even dynamics in the global economy is also something that I think that we cannot wish away, but again, it will be developments. That's what.
I think the picture we've both created now is something we've seen over time. You know, the cedi assumes some stability, and then after a while, and then we see it, you know, take another tumble. Why haven't we been able to fix that problem over the years, once and for all, or to the best that we can?
Yeah, but it's because to solve it requires very painful real sector reforms. You see, I think that the first most difficult way, I mean, and I think this is really the economics, I think the economics behind this is that the first way to really influence the cedi over a long term is consumption. You know, and how do you influence the country's consumption pattern? How do you shift preferences? I mean, it's a difficult thing.
Absolutely.
So the policy, yeah, I mean, if you and I really have, you know, maybe appetite for foreign consumption and the imports are driving the economy and we need to get a policy to alter consumption, then consumption, how are we going to alter? Is it going to be price-sensitive consumption? Ghanaian consumers sensitive to price? Can domestic production compete on price basis? You see, so the economics behind it is really a difficult thing. If you don't want to look at consumption, you want to even look at investment, either, let's say, public sector investment or even private sector investment. How do we get, you know, capital to go to the areas that can make us, for example, to reduce our trade deficit? And I think that we've been doing that with various approaches. Trust me, we've done a lot of export-led growth. I think that we spent several decades talking about even promotion of made-in-Ghana goods. Recently, the Trade Ministry is talking about that. But clearly, you know, the ecosystem for Ghanaian industries to compete is also something that we need to. And so, for example, if you have high cost of credit, if you have energy supply challenges, you know, if you don't have even quality of labor, then all this fits into it. So to really solve this, you know, we need to go to the policy space. We need to alter some of the fundamental things in the economy that really is the basis of it. And to quickly add to the other thing, what we often do, or what we have been doing now, is to find short-term ways to deal with contain it. And policy-wise, one of the short-term ways to do that is to use our reserves. So you realize that most often than not, if our gross reserves improves, either through Eurobond or cocoa syndication, and the central bank is able to more effectively intervene in the market, you don't have any unusual demand pressures. Now, for example, crude oil prices are quite a bit low. We don't have a lot of pressure from that angle in terms of import. Then you see there's some kind of stability. So yes.
But even as of now, we don't even have too much of the reserves, do we, as a country?
Well, as a country, we don't have, I mean, quite.
So we don't that even spells more doom for the currency. Because then we wouldn't have...
Doom? Doom, yes. I mean, but I mean, the word doom is that means
maybe
that
it's exaggerated.
That means that, yeah. So that means that typically countries with low reserves, their currencies are very vulnerable because people's medium to long term perspective about the currency is not strong. So when something happens, there's a lot of panic because they know that the central bank cannot intervene beyond this particular, horizon. So yes, it makes your country more vulnerable. But doom
maybe
will
doom
occur,
is exaggerated.
yeah, or maybe a total collapse would occur if the sources of any form of building up your reserve doesn't exist again. It's exhausted, and probably your trade.
But if for us, we don't really have a sustainable form of rebuilding our reserves. Should we run out, we are always looking out to getting it from elsewhere.
Yeah, no. There are some forms of sustainable reserves. I mean,
Which
a lot
we
of
are
the reserves
employing here.
Yeah, a lot of the reserves actually comes from our exports. I mean, quite frankly, a lot of our reserves,
But I get that. Yeah. But right now, like we have said, oil is the price of oil keeps tumbling, and so we don't expect too much to come from there.
Yeah, so we don't expect too much. Yeah, but again, we still have some revenue that is coming out of and as a country, the building the reserves really comes from a balance of payment, and there are a lot of items there that I think that as a going concern, we will build the reserve. Maybe what may surprise us is that our trade deficit has ballooned. All of a sudden it's so large. So relative to our reserves and our cash flow pattern, the reserves become very inadequate. But technically, that is the role of the central bank, and I want to believe sincerely that the central bank should be on top of that. I mean, to the extent that we don't go to that level. But again, in periods or the episodes of very erratic currency depreciation, especially the cedi, you realize that in the short term, it means that our reserves have some challenges. So we have to, and remember, not all the reserves are even liquid. Some of the reserves we can quickly support the market. Some are even illiquid. So you have to take some time for you to do that. So, yeah.
You're watching Business Time. We are discussing the Ghana cedi. When we come back, well, in the long term, we know that we have learned that there could be some form of depreciation then. But as a business, in the short term, in the medium term, what should you factor into planning when it comes to the use of the currency? And then what lessons could we pick from countries that may have suffered similar fate with their currencies? We'll discuss that when we come back. Don't go away. You're watching Business Time. Our guest today is Managing Director for InvestCorp, Sampson Akligoh, and we are discussing the Ghana cedi. This is the second part of the conversation. You may have missed the first part of the conversation where we did a lot of diagnosis, a few solutions here and there. Let's talk about consumption, because it's been the biggest bane for our currency. Government has tried all sorts of means to cut back on what we import into the country. How do you think that has worked out for the currency?
Well, personally, I don't think that I'm too impressed with the sources. And again, what we're talking about, we've been doing these reforms for so long, trust me. But significantly, I don't think it's only a government problem. I think it's a people problem. It's about the orientation. I mean, there is a social theory aspect of it, and I think getting that right together with industry is the basis for maybe that transformation. So how do we get policy to influence that?
Indeed. So government needs to give the kick.
No. I think leadership always have the responsibility.
This is a country where, and I'm not talking about this particular government. This is a country where you introduce taxes on imports so that you discourage the consumption of foreign goods, and then people put all sorts of pressures. Yeah. So you take away some of those taxes, which is what we've seen with this administration as well. We're not getting anywhere with that. Should we consider deliberately devaluing our currency to discourage imports?
Yeah, but again, you see, those are the policy measures. So in economic sense, you can consider, well, now we're in a floating regime, so you can consider quite an unusual currency depreciation to contain that. But what are the preferences of the people? What would there really be a real substitution effect if you actually get a currency to depreciate and people will not shift to local consumption? Then what you're really doing is that the welfare effects becomes a bit more serious. So it's not something that we can just say. It's something that must be well coordinated, because what is really going to happen is that if the substitution effect is weak and you decide to get a currency to depreciate, you're going to get more people still buying the import. In fact, actually, they don't have a choice. For instance, domestic production may not be able to even meet the gap. You hear sometimes you hear these things being said that some people will tell you that, okay, but you're going to put maybe some, let the currency depreciate, let the price of imported rice gets to this. But how do we ensure, one, not only the price effect, when maybe because of the currency depreciation, the imported rice is now expensive. How do we even ensure the preference? Do Ghanaians really want to buy, the made in Ghana good? And how do we actually ensure that not only the price effect takes this thing, but we move people psychologically towards and we have to do that.
This is becoming difficult.
But there is some good sides to it. So you look at your consumption. Interestingly, in Ghana, governments remain one of the biggest consumers of a lot of things, even through their goods and services budget. Government still plays a very important role in the education sector. So do we move through institutional consumption to push that and then let household consumption follow? Do we? And I think that there's, I do not, if I tell you that the fix is that we need to find a way, and because let us be very honest with ourselves, if we don't face this, this is the basis of economic stability, this is the basis of currency stability, this is the basis of job creation. This is how we have to face it. So we need to figure a way, and if the policymakers make it clear to us as a people that, hey, this is where we have to go, we need to face this, and in facing this is good for you and I, then I think that we will, but it's a lot of work.
So you think Ghana's Made in Ghana campaign could yield something for the city? This administration is embarked.
So that's what I'm saying, that we are doing a Made in Ghana campaign. You see, the Made in Ghana campaign must be exhaustive. For example, the rice that we are producing, it's not only in just the campaign. Is it price competitive? Is it quality competitive? Do you, and then also, even the supply chain, how is it, for example, you'll be so shocked that imported rice may have a more effective distribution channel in the country than Made in Ghana rice, because the distribution channels have been established over 20 years, over 30 years. Do we have that effective channel for Made in Ghana? People have acquired taste for different kind of, like maybe even the peanuts that we take. Is it going to take a year to change that? No. So it is not only about the campaign, but it must be very exhaustive, or else if the whole thing is not packaged well, you're going to achieve little and then you're going to put in a lot more. And I think the bane for us really is that we need to get to understand from the economic perspective how we fit these things together, and then we work together to sustain.
We'll work it together, indeed. Thank you very much for joining us here, Sampson. Sampson Akligoh is MD for InvestCorp. We've been having a conversation around the cedi. Hopefully, if you're a business and you're listening or hoping to make plans with the Ghana cedi, you have a fair idea of what you should expect now or in the future. And well, the biggest advice is the fact that businesses can still insulate themselves of whatever shocks the Ghana currency has to offer, whether in the short to medium term or in the long term. You just need a professional to help you do that. My name is Kemini Amanor. The program is Business Time. Still to come here is the commodity and forex news. Don't go away.
From October 2015 to March 2016, buy 1 5 kg bag of Cedi rice and you will stand a chance to win in fabulous prizes such as fridges, washing machines, LED TVs, home theaters, sound systems, laptops, and many more. It's all about the Cedi rice giveaway promotion. So keep enjoying your favorite Cedi rice and keep winning these great prizes. You can redeem your prizes instantly with the coupon you find in the bag at all Ramani and Royal Board depots nationwide, as well as selected wholesale outlets. Cedi rice, sweet aroma, great taste.
If you just tuned in, this is Business Time. My name is Kemini Amanor. The program is brought to you in association with Lele Foods and Giant Malt, and powered by the Business and Financial Times newspaper, which you'll find on your newsstand throughout the week, Monday to Friday, except on Thursdays. But if you want up-to-the-minute business news, always visit the BFTonline.com. Now let's check out the latest news on the commodities and forex market. So those were activities on the commodities and forex markets over the week. If you missed them, there you have it. And I hope you've had an absolutely thrilling episode of Business Time. So educative as far as the currency is concerned. We've had a beautiful conversation on it. If you're a business, you must know that you can always insulate your business from the shocks of the Ghana cedi. It may be stable now, but the future does not look same. My name is Kemini Amanor. The program is Business Time, and it's brought to you in association with Lele Foods and Giant Malt. My makeup is by Jubin House of Beauty. You find in the heart of Tessan, opposite the Please Depot. And my costume is by June Berry. Thanks for staying with us. We'll see you same time next week.